Thank you, dear Bhante, for your very kind introduction and the invitation. And I am delighted that you established Canada Mindfulness Meditation Institute in Edmonton, and that I'm also delighted to be giving this Dhamma Desana, Dhamma talk this evening in the month of Vesak. So you must have heard from other venerables and also from your own practice about the significance of this month. Recently I was in Detroit to conduct this program for children, also on the significance of Vesak, the month in which we celebrate the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and his passing away into Parinibbāna. So I noticed that children were a little curious as to how all these three incidents can happen in a single day, and I happened to explain to them that no, he was not born and then become enlightened and then passed away in a single day. That's not how it all happened. Somehow the tradition holds the understanding and the idea that all these significant events of this special human's life took place on the full moon day of this month, in the month of May. And so I gently explained to the children the significance of this month, how rare an appearance of a Buddha is, how fortunate we are to have to develop confidence in the Triple Gem and to totally dedicate our lives with the trust and that confidence in their hearts that they are not alone and the Dhamma is here and the Buddha is guiding us in every aspect of life. And I highlighted to them that you can wear something, when you are, like I said, you can wear something like a wristband that says WWBD, like those wristbands that the Christian tradition has, like WWJD, what would Jesus do at a time that is challenging to you, and WWBD stands for what would the Buddha do at a time that is challenging to you. So you'd always choose protecting oneself, and you would choose protecting the others. That means you protect yourself through loving kindness, patience, caring toward oneself, and not being cruel to oneself. And when you protect yourself that way, you naturally care for others. So this is the basic idea that I wanted to establish. And when Bhante asked what I wanted to talk about, I said, let's talk about, seeing the Dhamma is seeing the Buddha. And there is a reason for this. And I think it's perfect for this month to discuss about it. It all started from this phone call that I had with my father, who is an ordained Buddhist monk. So a couple of months ago, he went to the hospital with my brother, who is also a monk. My younger brother is a monk too. And together they went to the hospital, and my father ran some tests. And there, after finishing all those tests, he came out of the hospital, and I happened to call him. And I kind of jokingly asked him, what if you pass away? And what should we do about you? And at that point he said, I'll be gone. You just do whatever you like with this body. And but I wanted to divert this conversation to something else that I have been working on with him. In the monastic tradition, he's junior to me. Although he's older by ages, he's junior to me. So I can give him some Dhamma instructions. I asked him, what if you happen to be born as a worm in my mother's womb? Somewhat jokingly I asked. He said, no, that won't happen. But I said, you have this grudge toward her that you haven't resolved yet. It all started also because of a question I asked from him based on what my mother told me about some incident in the family. Before I asked that, I made sure that he was prepared for that question. He said, ask anything. I'll be fine, and I will not have any resentment toward your mother. So he was fine until I asked the question, and this was about some medicine he had given, and that medicine, I think my mom interpreted to be some kind of medicine that he shouldn't have given, because my dad was into practicing Ayurvedic medicine before he became a monk. So that means he extracts essential herbs and roots from the nature, and he would prepare medicine, and people would come to our house to get some treatments for minor things. So when I asked about that, he was pretty upset, and he stopped communicating with my mother. So every time he visited home, every time he visited my village, he would visit my sister's place, not my mom's. If our family van accidentally went in that direction, he would say to the driver, stop, I'm not going there. I'm like, why does he have so much, anger and difficulty in processing this? I kept telling him, it's okay, go there, and she didn't intend any harm when she shared this detail with me, and I didn't intend any harm. No one had any ill intention. And at that point, he kept saying, she's an evil one to say such a thing. So now he has to practice loving kindness. He knows that. I've been discussing kind of indirectly about the value of holding everyone in a heart full of loving kindness. So when the van accidentally turned in that direction, he would go. He would kind of reluctantly go, and if he gets off the vehicle and my mom comes with some mat to place it before him and show her veneration, he would look away. So he would not want to receive her respect. So I knew that this has been going on, and it's been about 2 years now, and I have tried every way possible to kind of instill loving kindness in his heart and resolve this. And now I have kind of given up also on it. I say, I tell myself, let them heal on their own. And I told my mom to not even be bothered about him not receiving her veneration. So I said, no, but next time you see him, you don't have to go bow to him. You just mind on your own things. If if my sister or somebody else say, let's offer him some drinks, you can do that. But you don't have to irritate yourself or him by showing up. So this was a statement I made to protect her, because she would feel pretty upset in front of other family members every time he did this. But my dad, knowing him very well, I know that he has been stubborn before even he became a monk. So when I asked him, what if you were born a worm in her womb? This is kind of a pretty straightforward, not so nice question, I knew. But he said, no, that won't happen. And how are you sure about it? I asked. And he said, I see the Buddha every day. And I'm like, wow, where do you see him? He said, he's there in this famous pagoda in Anuradhapura city, ancient city in Sri Lanka. He's perfectly smiling, beautiful and serene. He has this beautiful reclining posture, and he's there. I said, the Buddha is no more. He passed away into Parinibbāna. It is like a flame of a candle being blown away, and when conditions are present, this flame is present. When conditions are no more, the flame won't, you cannot trace this flame. And he took a moment. He was quite adamant that the Buddha is still there, and his heart is inclined toward that direction. He said, when he passes away, he'll be headed in that direction. And I was very happy about that. And at the same time, I told him that, of course, many people, because of their strong faith and recollection of the qualities of the Buddha, they establish their heart in such a way that upon death, all they want to do is to go to that pagoda and to stay there, because they feel so peaceful being in front of that pagoda. We all love going there. I can share just two incidents. One happened quite recently. This person known to me, he developed some sudden illness. He had a very close bond with his wife, and doctors did everything possible to treat him for this illness, some autoimmunity related disease. But ultimately they said, this is all we can do. He's kind of on the verge of now giving up his struggle. But he was conscious. His wife was present, his daughter and the son were present. And he took his phone off from the bedside and turned it on and showed his daughter, how to turn on the lights in their backyard. There is a light system that he had programmed to his phone. So he was pretty much guiding them to be on their own without him. And he was quite ready. And one thing his wife told him was that, don't worry about us. You always wanted to go to that pagoda, and when you leave us, you should go there, and we will join you there. And he closed his eyes and he peacefully said goodbye. That was it. And he stopped struggling. Of course, the doctors administer the right medications to comfort him, and that he was gone. And he had this beautiful smile. And that is one incident. Another incident about this pagoda is that this lady who lived in Boston, she also developed some illness in her intestine, and doctors did everything, and she was like almost gone. But she had this last wish. She wanted to go to Sri Lanka to that pagoda. So they put her, the family, with great difficulty, after negotiating with the flight staff, they put her in this wheelchair and wheeled her to the airplane, and she was barely conscious. And she went to that pagoda in Sri Lanka immediately after getting off of the airplane, and she had some king coconut water from a nearby shop. You have those vendors in that area, and she was quite refreshed, and she didn't need the wheelchair. She walked, circumambulated, and she came back to the van, and after that she felt well, and she's still alive and healthy, and she believes that something to do with her energy, reconnecting with that energy there, brought her back to good health. So this is how people associate with this place. So my father also has a habit of, although he lives in the suburbs of Colombo, he has to take about 2 buses to long journeys to get to this pagoda, and he does that every 2 weeks or so. He has this habit of going there and visiting his Buddha there and coming back, and no one knows he does this, only after his trip. If we called, or if he called, we know that he had gone to that pagoda. So on that phone call, I told him that the true seeing the Buddha is somewhat, meditational, if there is a word. True seeing the Buddha is truly seeing the Dhamma. And I said, you must have seen an image that you liked about the Buddha, and that you must have imagined him being there. Of course, the literature and the tradition holds the belief that there is a huge vessel of relics placed in this pagoda, and there are so many miracles associated with this place, and that my father must have imagined that those relics have manifested to become the Buddha, because that is also a belief in the Sri Lankan tradition, that a Buddha will reappear in that place and will give a Dhamma talk at the end of so many thousands of years, when the Buddhism almost ready to almost disappearing. So he must have imagined that that Buddha to be present in this place. So I told him about how an image in mind is developed. And first you see an image in your eyes, and if you, without you knowing, say there is a signpost that says, this is the directions to Banff National Park, and then you go by that, you drive by that place and you see that signpost, and the next day somebody removes that and they replace it with an exact similar signpost. But you go by this place, because you don't see anything different, you still think that that signpost you saw on the first day is the one that you are seeing now on the second day. On the third day, you imagine the same. So all you are seeing is an image that your mind developed about this signpost, and every successive day you go by, you are seeing that that image that you developed in mind. So a lot of things that we experience in the world, basically everything is like that. You experience it in your mind, and you are experiencing it again and again based on your own conditioning. So in this case, an image is first seen, and then that image is mentally stored, so it becomes a mental image. So the mind faculty, eye faculty, ear faculty, nose, tongue, body faculty, these are the sense bases. And for each faculty, there are visual forms, sound forms, smell forms, touch forms, the taste forms, and forms that you imagine. 6 types of forms that you experience. So for each of these, there is eye consciousness. So 6 types of consciousnesses: ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and the mind consciousness. So you see, now you have 6 sense bases, 6 external stimuli, and then 6 classes of consciousness. Meeting of each 3, the fusion of each 3, brings a condition that the Buddha named as making a contact. Based on a contact you make, there is a corresponding feeling that can be pleasant, painful, or neutral. So obviously, in the case of my father, he is developing a neutral feeling or a feeling of equanimity. And then it also gives him some joyful feeling because he is successful in seeing this Buddha and it brings happiness to his heart. That is another feeling he develops. But it's never rooted in anger, because it is the Buddha that he is seeing again and again. So that way he is in a very secure position upon death, that he is able to probably focus on his mind in that direction as he is leaving his body, and he is probably able to reappear as a spontaneous heavenly being or heavenly some kind of conditioning there because of the happy state of mind he develops, which I can't predict. Nobody knows. So there is some safety there. At the same time, now we are kind of walking the mind of the Buddha, walking the mind of an arahant, someone who has traveled this path, walking the mind of a noble disciple of the Buddha, which who has the understanding and wisdom to see this arising nature and also the cessation phenomena. The cessation phenomena is quite simple. If the eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or the mind, if any one of these sense faculties are not present, and if visuals in visual forms, sound forms, if they are not present, smell forms, taste forms, touch forms, and the images in mind, if those are not present, and if eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and the mind consciousness are not present. So if all these 3 conditionings are not present, then that contact, eye contact, ear contact, nose contact, body contact, tongue contact, and the mind contact, those also cannot be present. And the corresponding feeling, eye pleasant feelings, eye painful feelings, eye neutral feelings won't be present. And it goes on to each of the sense faculties. If those are not present, a kind of craving won't be present. Liking what is pleasant, disliking what is unpleasant won't be present. So this is the way the Buddha saw the arising of conditioning and the cessation of conditioning. So this is called dependent co-arising. They are arising dependent on other factors. This is this I began explaining because he was kind of ready to have that discussion with me outside the hospital, while my brother was waiting, I think collecting some reports, and so he had plenty of time. And I told him this story about two monks going to Himalayas with a wooden statue, and that they wanted to spend time meditating, and they would not, leave even in harsh winter conditions, and that this one day they were doing quite great in their practice. One of the monks was very close to his realization. However, they ran out of firewood on this day, and the monk who was very close to his realization suggested that they'd burn the Buddha statue and then make a firewood out of it. And the other one was pretty upset. He said, no, I'm not going to burn this statue. I'm going to leave. I don't want to see you doing that. He developed this instant rush of subconscious emotion that is rooted in anger, not rooted in loving kindness and wisdom. And he left their hut in search of firewood and kind of resenting the company of his friend. At that point, the other friend, although he told this friend to stay, that friend didn't listen. He left. So this monk spent the night burning that statue gently and coming back to his practice and purifying his mind, and ultimately realizing everything, realizing the truth about conditioning and their cessations. So this in the morning, when the storm had passed, he went looking for his friend, and all he saw was a dead body. Friend with not so happy, not so smiling face. With great difficulty he had faced harsh conditions of winter. He could not find any firewood. He had died. So when I told that story to my father, he was a little shocked. First about the idea of that one monk burning the Buddha statue. The secondly about that friend passing away due to harsh conditions of winter in the Himalayas. So I told him that one monk imagined a real Buddha in that place, in the place of the wooden statue. And another monk, he took it just as a useful firewood, and an image of a Buddha did not bother him. Of course, he showed his reverence to this Buddha until that day when he needed to use it for his practice of meditation, to keep the hut warm and to continue his practice. And overnight he came to his realization. Probably the only attachment he had toward anything was that material thing, the statue in his mind. So he overcame that, but his friend could not. And when I finished telling that story, my father quietly understood that all these images are developed in the minds of us. And eventually one day we have to let them go and see the truth about their actual arising and passing away moment by moment, until we do not see anything that we have added as layers that we try to defend there, and that there is nothing there that we should actually defend. And the idea of a self-view is similar to that. In everything that we experience, we may see it is I, me, or myself. It is my grief. It is my fear. It is my this, my that. However, all these are hollow, and that they don't have an essence as I or me or myself, if you truly look closely into the conditioning. It is because of not realizing their true nature that we develop expectations about certain things. When the reality is here and our expectations are here, the bigger the gap between the reality and expectations, bigger the suffering is. So when you bring this gap closer and you come closer to seeing the reality, you are in equanimity. You are not necessarily in happiness or sadness. You are not in a positive or negative mindset. In every experience you go through, you can quickly use your cutter of wisdom to discern the truth about this situation and say that I am here realistically with a heart full of equanimity, and that my mind can be redirected to imperturbability, a mind that is unshaken, mind that is inclined toward peace, mind that has the training to visit not the forms but the emptiness of them. The mind that has the training and the habit of cleansing from lust, hatred and delusion, so the mind that can touch non-lust, non-hatred and non-delusion in between, until on some day there is only non-lust, non-hatred and non-delusion present, and that day you are truly seeing all the depths that the Buddha experienced and saw through his mind. This is the kind of seeing that you do without your eyes open. This is the kind of seeing you do with your eyes closed, in your own mind space, mind domain, mind realm. And when you start seeing this, there is this liberating insight that you develop. So when I shared all that, my father was quite happy. He went to the monastery with my brother, and my brother went to his own monastery, also in the suburbs of Colombo. And the next day my brother and I made a group phone call to my father, and at the end of that call I asked my father, do you remember anything we discussed the other day? And he said no, he had forgotten most of it. He's now 79 years old. I think at this time when we had this conversation, he was, I guess, 78-ish. So I can understand that, it's hard for him to contain the knowledge of dependent origination, and a lot of discussions of, this and that. And I also, I think, highlighted the value. Whenever I shared this story in groups, I highlight the value of truly using this time earlier in your life to develop wisdom. And wisdom is super important in this practice that we do here. Wisdom, the Buddha said, it is the precious jewel for us human beings. It shines with your behavior, and that wisdom contributes to a character that outshines. So all these teachings the Buddha gave, he established 3 pillars. The pillar of your virtues, very strong pillar that is holding the house of enlightenment, and the pillar of stillness of your mind that is holding the house of enlightenment, and the pillar of wisdom. that is also holding the house of enlightenment. And I say, since it came to my mind, I will share anyway, that this whole house building is actually a non-house building, and it starts with a simple practice of a smile. And smile is a moment that your heart feels lighter and your whole being becomes so light and relaxed and at ease, and you can soften with a smile. And look at each letter of this word, S-M-I-L-E. And I was kind of thinking along, these lines to kind of come up with an abbreviation, a meaning for this abbreviation, smile. And I thought it's amazing that you can say S stands for serenity, which is very important, essential in the practice of meditation. And M stands for mindfulness, which is a supporting condition for enlightenment. And I stands for insight, which is essential in developing wisdom. And L stands for loving kindness, always important in the practice of meditation or living this life. Our base always has to be loving kindness in all situations. And E stands for enlightenment. So smile ends with E, smile ends with enlightenment. So start smiling and it will take you all the way to Nibbāna. The door to Nibbāna will, swings open. The door to Nibbāna swings open every time you smile. Every time you bring your heart to loving kindness, you are kind of letting that door open, and you are starting to see non-lust, non-hatred, non-delusion as many times as possible until your heart is fully established in that kind of Dhamma. So when Bhante asked if I wanted to share the screen, I said yes, and it is because we see a statement made by the Buddha in this very important discourse called Vakkali Sutta, found in the Samyutta Nikaya. I think it's nice that in the remaining time we explore this discourse. In it we find the Buddha's statement that when you see Dhamma, you see me. And it was told to this monk who was fond of seeing the image of the Buddha. And the Buddha, I'm sure because this is a famous story, you all must have heard of it in different lengths. But it's always nice to revisit it and find the details that we may have forgotten somehow. So let me share the screen. I'm reading from Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. Let's see what other translations we have. We have, I think, Bhikkhu Sujato's with Pali. So the idea here is Venerable Vakkali is ill and asks the Buddha to visit him. The Buddha does so, but says there is no point in seeing his physical body, as one who sees the Dhamma sees him. Later, Vakkali is taken to the Black Rock on Isigili, where he declares that he has no attachment to the aggregates. And I'll explain what they are in a bit, and takes his own life. The Buddha says that he had attained final extinguishment. Let me increase the size of the fonts. I saw Donna coming closer to the screen trying to read all this. Venerable Dhammachinta is here. Very lovely to see you. You visited us here, didn't you? Oh, very sweet to see you. All right, so here is the discourse. I opened the Pali just in case we want to visit the Pali too. So this is number 2280.87, Sanyutta Nikaya. Sanyutta means linked discourses. Nikaya, collection of discourses. There is a chapter called The Senior Monks, Thera Vagga, and this is one of those senior monks. So, ekang samayang bhagava rajagahe viharati. Ekang samayang, at one time, Bhagava, the Blessed One, viharati, dwells, rajagahe, at Rajgir, that's a township still there, Veluwane, in Bamboos Grove, Kalandaka Nivape, the squirrel's feeding ground. Tena Kohapana Samen, now at that time, Ayasma Vakkali, Venerable Vakkali, was Kumbhakara Nivesane Viharati, was staying in a potter's shed. Abadiko, he was sick. Dukkhito, suffering. Balha Gilano, gravely ill. Atako Ayasma Vakkali, then Venerable Vakkali, Upattake Amantesi, addressed the carers, the attending monks. Eta tumhe avuso, please, reverence, come, yena bhagava tenupasankamata, go to where the Buddha is, upasankamitva, having gone, mama vachanena, with my word, bhagavato pade, at the feet of the Blessed One, sirasa vandata, show my bow to him, show my prostration to him. And say this, Vakkali bhante bhikkhu, Venerable Sir, the monk Vakkali, abadiko, he is sick, dukkhito, suffering, balha gilano, gravely ill. So Bhagavato pade sirasa vandatiti, he bows with his head to your feet. Evancha padeta, and also say this, Sadhu kira bhante bhagava yena vakkali bhikkhu. It would be wonderful, Venerable Sir, the Blessed One, yena vakkali bhikkhu, where the bhikkhu Vakkali is, tenupasankamatu, may you come to see me, anukampang upadayati, with compassion in your heart, with sympathy in your heart. So yes, Reverend, those monks replied, they did as he asked. The Buddha consented with silence when they reported this to the Buddha. Then the Buddha robed up and taking his bowl and robes went to Venerable Vakkali. Venerable Vakkali saw the Buddha coming off in the distance and stirred in his cot. He wanted to stand up and almost collapse at the feet of the Buddha. He was that fond of seeing the Buddha, to kind of show his respect to the Buddha. But the Buddha said to him, "It is all right, Vakkali, don't get up." Let's see if someone's mic not turned off. That's okay. Loving kindness in that direction. But the Buddha said to him, "It is all right, Vakkali, don't get up. Alang Vakkali, matwang manchake samadhosi." The Buddha is seeing the space there and says, "There are some seats spread out. I will sit there." The Buddha sat on the seat spread out and said to Vakkali, "I hope you are keeping well, Vakkali. I hope you are all right." So this is a stock statement you see in different incidents, different discourses. When the Buddha visited sick monks, he would always ask, "Kacchite kamaniyang, kacchi apaniyang." Kacchi dukkha vedana patikkamanti no abhikkamanti. Patikkamosanam panyayati no abhikkamoti. I hope you are keeping well, Vakali. I hope you are all right. And I hope the pain is fading, not growing. So that's a very significant thing he did. So he's kind of, with his soothing voice and words, he's telling something like, I hope it's, going down. You are improving. Not that illness, the pain is not growing. So he's mentioning the patikkamanti part, the pain going down, so returning, comes back, goes back. So gradually it is being decreased. Let me close this part and then bring it back. No abhikkamanti, not growing. That patikkamosanam panyayate, that it shows that it is disappearing, that its fading is evident, not its growing. And then he says, no, Venerable Sir. Sir, I'm not all right. I'm not getting by. My pain is terrible and growing, not fading. Its growing is apparent, not its fading, he says. Na me bhante kamaniyang na yapaniyang balha me dukkha vedana abhikkamanti no patikkamanti abhikkamosanang panyayati no patikkamoti. And then the Buddha addresses his mind. Very important. I hope you don't have any remorse or regret. Isn't this something you would ask from a friend, a spiritual friend that you have been closely associating with, and that person is gravely ill and you would want to make sure that they release their heart ultimately? So you will find kind words to approach them and ask gently about anything that they want to share, anything you want to share. Are you worried about something? Indeed, sir, I have no little. So there's great remorse and regret in his heart. So much of it. Anappakam. It's not little, so much. So the word the Pali uses is kukkuchang. And then vippatisaro, regret. My mind is regretting. So the Buddha asked him, is it about your conduct, ethical conduct? I hope you have no reason to blame yourself when it comes to your ethical conduct. Monks are supposed to keep their precepts and maintain the precepts and continue on. He says, no, I have no reason to blame myself when it comes to my precepts. I have not broken any. I don't tell lies. So even here, he knew that he's right in front of the Buddha. If he told a lie, the Buddha knows it immediately. He's not telling a lie here. When he says, I don't have any regret about my precepts. I have not broken any. I have not done any killing. I have not broken any of the monk precepts. In that case, Vakali, why do you have remorse and regret? The Buddha is asking quietly. Now this is the thing that that contributed to his Chirapatikahang Bhante. For a long time, Venerable Sir, Bhagavantan Dasanaya Upasankamitu Kamo, wanting to, with the desire to come see you, Nattichame Kayasming Tavatika Balamatta. I was too weak physically. I could not come. Yavatahang Bhagavantan Dasanaya Upasankameyanti. I could not get that far to see you at your kuti, the cabin. For a long time I've wanted to go and see the Buddha. You can imagine the feeble voice of this monk. I wanted to come see you, but I could not. He's kind of using all his energy to tell this. At this moment, I'm sure he was joyful because the Buddha consented and came to see him. And he says, I was physically too weak. Enough, Vakali. This is the very compassionate, straightforward teacher's job, the Buddha doing. Enough, Vakali, telling the right thing. Why would you want to see this rotting body? To a monk, this can land as an enlightening statement, but to someone who is overcome with lust, hatred, and delusion, this can stir so much anger. Why? It happened, one time. What's her name? Magandia. She was so beautiful, and her dad saw the Buddha and Buddha's beauty and immediately decided that my daughter has never liked anyone before. She's so beautiful, and I'm sure she's going to like this man, the Buddha. And the Buddha said, the moment this was brought to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, no, something like, I forget exactly what he said, but something that upsetted her, something like a rotting body that he will never have any passion on. He has already gone beyond that level, and that he won't have any passion. So because he said something like a rotting body to her beautiful body, she wanted to take revenge. So she became the queen of the king in that kingdom, and eventually ended up murdering a queen, Mallika, I guess, and then murdering so many people who had faith toward the Buddha, trapping them in a palace because of this statement upsetting her at that moment. And I'm sure she is still there in hell because of the evil karma he committed. And the king ended up trapping her and her relatives in the royal chambers and setting that place on fire, just the way she did to 500 of the helpers of Queen Samavati, not Mallika, Queen Samavati, very peaceful, devoted Buddhist queen, and the king did the same to her relatives, and this is how her karma reaped there. So in this case, why would you want to see this rotting body? The Buddha says, one who sees the teachings sees me. This is what we try to unwrap in the conditional arising, so dependent on the eye and the visuals. Eye consciousness arises. The fusion of the three is eye contact. Dependent on eye contact, eye feelings arises. Dependent on eye feelings, eye cravings arises. Dependent on eye craving, eye clinging arises. Dependent on clinging, a certain form of existence is manifested, and in that existence there can be birth in that form, in that realm, as a heavenly being or a human being, or in a hell spirit, and there is birth, aging, death, illness, sorrow, grief, lamentation, and the whole mass of suffering. This is the arising phenomena. And when any of these conditions are not present, these conditionings won't be present. So one who sees that sees me, because they see the way out of this whole arising experience. So this is the knowledge of arising and knowledge of cessation. So this is the famous statement. Yoko vakkali dhammang passati so mang passati. Vakkali, one who sees the teaching, sees me. Yo mang passati, one who sees me, so dhammang passati, sees the teaching. Dhammang hi vakkali passanto mang passati, seeing the teaching, you see me. Mang passanto dhammang passati, seeing me, you see the teaching. So now the Buddha is asking this line of questions to really help Vakkali see this. What do you think, Vakkali? This is all in your thinking. Is form, the form aggregate here, the physical body, permanent or impermanent? Obviously this body has a certain number of years, therefore it is impermanent. So he says that. But if it is impermanent, is it suffering or happiness? If you wanted to keep the body forever, that is an unrealistic expectation, and that brings suffering. It never brings happiness to your heart that way. So if you see it that way, it brings suffering. You can wish your body to stay forever, but that won't happen. But if it is impermanent, suffering and perishable, is it fit to be regarded that this is mine, I am this is myself, etang mama, this is mine, eso hamasmi, I am this, eso me atta, this is myself? No, sir. So you would wonder, why did Vakkali not reflect on this part? He must have, but he was not serious enough to really stop at the 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates: form, feelings, perceptions, choices like volitional formations and consciousness. All these are like different parts of a car, and when they are put together, you see the car. When those parts are separated, you don't see a car in there. So I, me or myself, these ideas are manifested in our hearts and minds because we tend to take the forms, the body, as I, me or myself, and you can say visual forms, sound forms, all these can be taken as I, me or myself. I am seeing this, and so on and so forth. Feelings, say for example the feelings that are associated with anxiety. When you are beaten with anxiety, you may take it as your anxiety. That is because you don't see the conditional arising of it in that moment, and you beat yourself up thinking that, oh, how bad, there is this anxiety. Instead of adding loving kindness to that experience and accepting it, you resist it. What you resist persists because you are not giving enough wisdom to that experience. You are not nurturing equanimity about this experience. You are not seeing the arising phenomena and the cessation phenomena of this experience to be detached from it right then and there. So perceptions. So there is a place in meditation you go to as a developing non-perception. And when non-perception is developed enough, mind has no thing to perceive and it experiences cessation. Because no thing to perceive, no equanimity, no feelings, there is only equanimity present. I wouldn't say no equanimity, and that too disappears. So consciousness has no conditioning to arise and it ceases. So no volitional formations and no consciousness. So are these permanent or impermanent? Because they are constantly changing. He responds, impermanent. obviously impermanent, Venerable Sir. Aniccang bhante. Eso me attati. Are they yourself? No, Venerable Sir. So you should truly see each of these. Seeing this, there is nothing further for this to be seen. Naparang ittatayati pajanati. And then, so the Buddha brought him to that place. There is nothing more to see when you see this. Develop true knowledge. Make sure there is nothing that is unseen here. And then after giving this advice, Vakkali was quite ready for that advice. To truly see the Buddha through the teachings, the Buddha got up from his seat and went to the Vulture's Peak mountain, the Gijjakuta. People still climb this mountain there in India. Then Venerable Vakkali addressed his carers. Come on, Venerables, lift my cot and take me to the black rock on the slopes of Isigili. For how on earth could one such as I imagine dying in an inhabited area? So he wanted to be away from the monks. He wanted seclusion. Yes, Reverend. So he was nearing his death. Replied those mendicants and did as he asked. Meanwhile, the Buddha spent the rest of that night and day on Vulture's Peak mountain. Then, late at night, two glorious deities, lighting up the entire Vulture's Peak, went up to the Buddha and bowed and stood to one side. One deity said to him, Sir, Venerable Vakkali is intent on liberation. And another deity said to him, he'll definitely be well freed. So there are these messages that come to the Buddha through heavenly beings. They are watching what monks do. This is what those deities said. Then they bowed and respectfully circled the Buddha, keeping him on their right side before vanishing right there. So this is the way they show respect to the Buddha. Right hand side is shown as a hand that you eat rice with, mostly, so that hand is shown toward someone that you respect, especially when you circumambulate that person. Whether you circumambulate a person or a pagoda, you do that, in circles. Then, when the night had passed, the Buddha addressed the monks. Come, monks, go to the monk Vakkali and tell him, Vakkali, hear the words of the Buddha and the two deities. Late last night, two glorious deities lighting up the entire Vulture's Peak went up to the Buddha, bowed and stood to one side. One deity said to him, Sir, the monk Vakkali is intent on liberation. The other deity said to him, he'll definitely be well freed. And the Buddha said, do not fear Vakkali. Ma bhai Vakkali, ma bhai Vakkali, do not fear. Your death will not be a bad one. Your passing will not be a bad one. So like my father's, won't be a bad one for sure. Yes, sir. Those monks replied. They went to Vakkali and said to him, Vakkali, hear the words of the Buddha and the two deities. So, then Vakkali addressed his carers, please, reverends, help me off my cot. For how on earth could one such as I presume to listen to the Buddha's instructions sitting on a high seat? He had that much faith. He was in his cot, he wanted to be right on the ground. Yes, Reverend, replied those monks, and helped him off his cot. They repeated what the Buddha had said. Vakkali said, well then, reverends, in my name, bow with your head at the Buddha's feet. At that point, his heart is at equanimity. No more in remorse or regret. No kukucha in his heart. Say to him, the mendicant Vakkali is sick, suffering gravely ill. He bows with his head to your feet, and then say, form is impermanent. It's kind of retelling that he got it. I got it. I have no doubt of that. I'm certain that what is impermanent is suffering, and I'm certain that I have no desire or greed or fondness for what is impermanent, not even an image of a Buddha. What is impermanent, what is suffering and perishable, and feelings is impermanent. I do not have any doubt in those. Perceptions is impermanent. Volitional formations impermanent. Consciousness impermanent. I have no doubt in that. I'm certain that what is impermanent is suffering, and I'm certain that I have no desire or greed or fondness for what is impermanent, suffering and perishable. Yes, Reverend, those monks replied and left, leaving him in seclusion. When somebody dies, sometimes they wait until nobody is there in that room and they peacefully pass away. They just wait until that moment. I have worked as a hospital chaplain, and I've also dealt with many families grieving the death of their loved ones, and I know this is sometimes a fact. They wait until sometimes even the attendant in the room is gone, and then they peacefully pass away. Then those monks went up to the Buddha and told him Vakkali's message. Then the Buddha told the monks, "Come, monks, let's go to the black rock on the slopes of Isigili." What a compassionate thing to go see him. Where Vakkali, the gentleman, committed suicide. So the Buddha knew that he was ready. "Yes, sir," they replied. Then the Buddha, together with several monks, went to the black rock on the slopes of Isigili. The Buddha saw Vakkali off in the distance on his cot, lying with aggregates cast off. Very, very interesting statement. Vivatta khandang semanang. With aggregates cast off, just lying there. He wanted to be done. It was like, this is like euthanasia, guided. That he did himself, like no regard for any pain whatsoever. The pain that he was enduring was greater than the pain in that one moment, whenever he experienced that. Now at that time, a cloud of black smoke. This is very interesting, Tena kopana samena dhumai tattang timirai tattang gachateva purimang disang gacchati paccimang disang gacchati uttaran disang gacchati dakhinan disang gacchati uddhang disang gacchati adho disang gacchati anu disang. Now at that time a cloud of black smoke was moving east, west, north, south, above, below and in between. Then the Buddha said to the monks, "Monks, do you see that cloud of black smoke moving east, west, north, south, above, below and in between?" "Yes, sir." "That is Mara, the wicked, searching for Vakkali's consciousness, wondering, where is Vakkali's consciousness established? Did he go to hell because of this? Did he go to heaven? Is he born a human being? But since his consciousness is not established, Vakkali is quenched. Vakkali is Parinibbāna. That's the word that the Buddha used. Just like Parinibbāna used for the Buddha, but for him we use another adjective, Mahaparinibbāna, great quenching. So here I think it all connects with the flame of a candle, that when there is oil, a wick and oxygen and other conditions for it to burn, it will continue burning, and when those conditions are not present, it will be gone forever and no trace of it can be found. It's interesting that the Buddha was able to be with monks who were able to see that dark cloud. I'm sure those monks must have been very much like all the enlightened monks to witness this occasion. Also, monks who had clairvoyance, ability to see what is beyond the physical eye, physicality. So that is all for this evening. Do you have any questions? Gabriel, okay, I asked to unmute you.
Can you hear me, Bhante?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Very nice.
Thank
Lovely.
you.
So I'm curious that in this sutta, Wakali, it says committed suicide.
Mhm.
Could you expand on that? Because that seems to me to be something that would be harming himself and an act of breaking the first precept.
Great question. I knew this was coming every time. And there are a couple of other incidents recorded in the Buddhist discourses about monks doing this. It is not encouraged. This is not encouraged, and this is not the way to become enlightened. I must say that first. The way that the understanding of Vakali is described prior to this incident is that in him reporting that he has no doubt whatsoever, that is the place that shows that he is enlightened. And this act he did, let's look at the words described in the sutta. I can reshare the screen if you are interested in seeing. Yattha vakkalina kulaputtena satta maharitanti. What he has used, he has used the knife. That is how the Pali says. Satta is a sharp weapon that he used. At that point, it's not vakkali anymore. And this only applies to enlightened monks, not to ordinary people. His intention is super important here. His intention is not to harm himself or not to harm anyone else. He endured this pain up until this point, and he saw no point hanging in there, feeding his body, and he thought, let it end. That's all. That was his intention. That's how the Buddha also saw Vakkali's intention, and that he is regarded as one of the enlightened monks. So that's how I can respond briefly to it. Do you still have more things to clarify here?
So with intention, well, I guess that he was fully awakened,
Yes.
meant that however he met his death, he would pass into Parinibbāna and not to be reborn again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So even though he may have created a karma that was unwholesome, he was beyond
Karma.
he was beyond karma, and he was beyond receiving those results.
That's a great point, Gabriel. Yes. The way the enlightened mind described is that they do not, all they have is actions only. Actions only suggest that there is no results in these actions. There is no results because there is no concept of a doer in here. There is also no concept of this action rooted in greed, hatred, or delusion. So there is no way that this is, of course, philosophical and controversial at the same time. In at any time uh, when we discuss this, so at that point, there is only the pure intention that is rooted in non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. And how clever one has to be to maintain their mindset in there and in each second. But he was so sure, and the only thing that kept him bound, unquenched, was the image of a Buddha.
He clung to that image. Is that how?
He clung to that image, and that visit by the Buddha helped him undo all that he built in his mind and really see the Buddha through the teachings that the Buddha taught to him. Like, imagine the Buddha coming to your bedside and giving this very short but very useful teaching, just what he needed to reflect on in the last couple of hours of his life, I would say.
It's an interesting contrast to Angulimala, who committed
How
all his
so?
Angulimala committed all his misdeeds
Yes.
while unenlightened,
Yeah.
and then reached liberation, but still had to suffer with the consequences. I think it's called vipaka
Yeah.
of his misdeeds. So yeah, so it's an interesting contrast.
This is also an interesting point that you brought, that the kind of vipaka he endured, I think people were kind to him. They did not try to kill him the way he did, right? That, of course, they were pretty upset that this monk came to their township begging for food, and he had barely any luck with that. And also the way that his wisdom worked this life, in that same life, is that he developed it fully, and this way there was no chance for any more new karma to be generated, except that the vipaka kept following him because he was still alive, and there was no escape for him in there. So most occasions the Buddha or other monks would bring food to him, so he could just focus on living in seclusion and in meditation, based on the compassion of these monks. Yes, he did them. Sorry?
No, please continue.
Yes, he did them misguided without the intention of causing. Of course, he knew this was destructive. He was wise enough to know it, but he was like, I think he went into a very dark space in his mind as he began doing it out of faith and trusting his teacher, because this was a secret mission he was on. That's how he was like misguided by his teacher, because he was the best favorite student until then. And I think it took the Buddha to explain to him that, no, you are misguided. You should stop doing this. You look what you have done. This is not going to help you. When you go back, the teacher will continue to do things to you. He'll be surprised, and you are going to kill your mother on this occasion. So later on, I think the Buddha wanted to show how pure and how powerful his heart and mind were. And when he saw that lady in labor pain, he stopped begging for food. His heart was throbbing with compassion. He wanted to do something about it. He went to the Buddha and said, I want to help her. And the Buddha said, yes, you can. And all you have to do is, to go say, I never killed anyone. By the power of that truth, may you be well. But he said, I have killed many. And the Buddha said, ever since you became a monk, ever since you were reborn,
Mhm.
you didn't do it. And that's the truth. And this truth you should truly use for her ease and comfort, coupled with my blessing. And he went to her and said that ever since I became a monk, all I can say is that I never intended to kill anyone, not even a tiniest being. And I bless you. This is all I can do. I'm no doctor. I don't know how to help you. But I truly, sincerely wish you well. I want to save this life. I want to save you. My heart is full of compassion. And this life is valuable to me. And she had a very easy birth after that. And the baby was healthy and safe. And this has become an utterance of truth until now. And we chant it to mothers expecting babies, especially when they are 3 weeks due. We bless using his statement. So this is he is a lifesaver too in that way. And I'll add a tiny bit to that when I lived in the university vihara in Peradeniya in Kandy, Sri Lanka, on full moon days, monks are invited to the maternity wards to bless the expecting mothers. And the matron there told me that they've never experienced anything complicated in these wards ever since they started this blessing tradition. So we happily go there. Doctors come, nurses come to receive blessings together with these mothers. Yes, it's the way that these discourses and these incidents teach Dhamma is so beyond the common understanding of things, but that is the furthest the compassion of the Buddha has touched, the way he taught us human beings. I can
Bhante.
take one more question. We have about 5 more minutes. Or we can probably wrap up here. We've been sitting for an hour and a half. It's time. Enough is enough, right? Let's share merits. Please join me in sharing merits. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect each and every one of us. May they long protect the Buddha's teachings and the dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhante.